Hey community, how are you? Welcome back to our conversation. Welcome to Conversations in Black, a series dedicated to discussing the healing journeys of people of color during Minority Mental Health Month, which is the month of July. And I'm really excited because therapy is my jam, y'all. I could talk about this all day. And I love how far we've come with the idea and execution of therapy. I used to think it was this thing just for white folks, and that the therapists there were lacking in melanin with gray hair and glasses, talking to you while you were on the couch, and everybody else we just went to the clinic, we ain't do the couch, right? But we've come a long way from the image of what therapy is, as you see from my locks, my bright attire, which really reflects the brightness of my Afro-Caribbean self. The face and flavor of therapy has changed. So today, if it's okay with you, I thought I would get into the topic of therapy and its evolving role for our communities, especially for communities of color. And if it's okay, I would like to talk about that, right? So if the congregation is okay with me talking about therapy, can y'all just say yes? Can I get a yes from the congregation, please? I hope y'all are ready. Now, after you say yes, hit share so someone else can come into the room and get a little bit of this lesson today. Oh my goodness, I'm so happy to be here. Make sure I'm where I'm supposed to be, because that's always the question. Let's see. If you see me too, just say hello so I know. Let me get this over there too so I can make sure I catch you guys on the chat. I appreciate that one share already. Super dope. All right, great. So if you have questions, I see you there too, so you can make sure that you can drop it in the chat, and I'll be sure to look over and answer. So my name is Amanda Flood, and I'm a licensed clinical social worker. I have a practice here in Lynbrook, Long Island. I am the owner of Kensho Psychotherapy, and Kensho, to me, aligns with therapy, because Kensho means the beginning of knowing that you need something more, followed by further skills or psychotherapy, right? Which is what we do to develop a deeper understanding of what's happening and to help you really express it in your day-to-day life, right? We just don't want you to know you have a problem. I want you to know what to do with it. And in addition to that, I also provide trainings for organizations on workplace stress, self-care, understanding vicarious trauma, emotional learning for students. And I also coach Black women in business on their mindset for success. So for me, emotional health is at the core of everything that we do. And again, it brings me back to a great space of having this conversation with you about therapy and mental health and what it means for Black and Brown communities, right? So if you're listening and whenever you hear this, drop a 1 for me if you want to be emotionally healthy. Right? I think it's super important, right? If you want your relationships to be healthy, drop a 1. If you want your bank account to be healthy, drop a 1. If you want your mind to be healthy, drop a 1, right? And all therapy is everything that you need to get there, because therapy is just about skills. It's the skills to navigate this life, right? It's the skills to support well-being in all of those areas. And what I really love in the past few years, maybe I think past 4 years, right? I've seen a shift in the younger generation, ages 20 to 30, that are yes, I'm going to therapy and I'm coming in. And from all backgrounds, I've had Jamaican clients, Trinidadian clients, Indian, I even had someone from Thailand, I have a white Jewish male. So, I love that for them, it was this is me and my time, I'm going to do this. And what I also love, so I was thinking about this, my mind went to one Haitian woman who said her father didn't know that she was even coming to therapy. She was really kind of sneaking out the house to come. And her mother knew. And her mother, even though her mother didn't understand it, her mother gave her permission to come. And I love that too. I love that even though she didn't know what it was about and didn't understand why she needed it, she was okay with it. So I really applaud those that may not understand therapy, but won't get in the way of someone else's healing, right? Of someone else's progress, of someone else's needs, because I think that's so important too. Even if you're not ready to go, it doesn't mean that you have to get in the way of someone else's. So that was like the last 4 years. And I think where we at right now in the past like 2 years or so, we're also seeing more like career age women in their late like 40s or so coming in to heal from those same families of color that didn't give them permission to be children, permission to be safe, permission to be heard. And, you know, they're working through that too, because they're tired, and they're tired of seeing the same patterns within their workplaces and relationships. And I really honor that strength too, because it takes a lot, again, to say that this is something that I need, and to go against what might not be, you know, like familiar or comfortable or popular in your family dynamics. And when we talk about patterns, which is what I think a lot of us see in the work that we do, I think as clinicians, as providers, we see patterns in people's lives. And all that is that, you know, we all go through things in life, right? We all have stories and we all have experiences, and therapy just helps to give you context to it. And some of us are really just trained to do that in different ways. And we have different skill levels and approaches. And it's important because mental health also exists on this spectrum. So we have folks that deal with daily stress, right? And then on the other side of that, we have folks that are dealing with things like voices or seeing things that other people don't see, who can't get out of bed, or who can only navigate life through some really unhealthy behaviors, right? And all of that falls under this realm of mental health. And all of it is a reflection of our experiences in life. And again, how those patterns now show up in response to those experiences. And the problem for most humans is we don't have the skills to know what to do with those experiences. And again, that's where therapy comes in, to lend you those skills, and sometimes lend you the support and the strength to implement those skills and that understanding, so that you can approach life a lot differently, right? And really, again, be able to heal from those experiences or evolve from those experiences. And that's that therapeutic space. One of the things that you might not know is that the average person waits 11 years from the onset of a mental illness to seek help. That's a long time, right? And if you think about it, though, there's probably a lot of people in your life that you're like, yo, they should probably be in therapy, right? Like, think about the people that, you know, we all talk about, that person that's on the couch all the time, that auntie that's in the room all the time, that don't nobody say anything, right? Think about it. We've got lots of people in our lives that probably should have gone to receive help in some capacity a long time ago, but they never went. And the problem is, the longer we wait, especially when it comes to mental health, because it does exist on the spectrum. Some people bounce back and they're great. Some people, it takes them a little bit longer. Some people kind of cycle in and out on different parts of that spectrum. Some folks, because they did not receive help early enough, it's much harder to intervene on the other side of that spectrum. So the longer you wait, it's the harder it is for providers like myself or other helpers, healers, doctors, to get you back to that place of functional wellness. So we've really got to stop hiding, I'm going to say. And we're going to talk about that. We have to kind of stop and decide, is it really working for us? And what do we need? And can we ask for that? Right? And I'll leave that question for you guys too in the chat. Why do you think we wait so long to get help for emotional issues? For some reason, we treat emotional issues so much more different than physical issues, but why do you think we wait so long to get help? You could put that for me in the chat. And I'm gonna stop because I'm gonna keep going. There's a lot of stigma, really. And I think the fact is too that therapy requires a lot of work. It requires a lot of vulnerability to tell a complete stranger your problems, which requires what? Vulnerability requires trust. And that's particularly hard for anybody, but I think especially for communities of color who've had a lot of distrust with outside providers, who've had distrust historically from white providers, right? And folks outside of our community experience. So it's hard to then come and seek help as much as we know that we need it, right? And I think especially around mental health, there's a lot of deep-rooted stigma around it, making it challenging, again, to seek help. Seeking help sometimes has its own meaning Within our culture, sometimes it means that we're broken and that we can't let other people know that something is wrong with us. And that's something that we have to continue to work on within our community. There's a lot of judgment within our community. And I'm not blaming us, because I think even that is complex based on our collective experiences, our historical experiences, why we've arrived to this place of judging each other as well. But the problem with judgment is it comes with a lot of shame, right? And what do we do when we experience shame? Drop it for me in the chat. When we experience shame, we hide. Right? And if we're hiding, we're not getting what we need. Okay, so that's the problem with shame. Another thing that's significant for us that gets in the way of us getting help is this pressure to succeed and to thrive and really survive as a people. But the back message with us like thriving, like with Black excellence, for example, is that we don't have time for healing because we're busy trying to make it. We're busy trying to survive. We're busy trying to pay the bills. We're busy trying to get into, Harvard or Brown or whatever the case may be, or we're busy trying to like hustle and get things done, right? We are really conditioned to work and work hard, and at times to sacrifice our own needs and our own well-being for our community. And yes, that is survival too. Right? We come from this place of like, hold your head up high, nothing is wrong with you, everything is okay, despite the challenges, despite how you feel, like go ahead and do the thing. And okay, like, yes, it's a strength, and yes, it's amazing that we can do that, but it's also a crutch that really disconnects us from the reality of how hurt, tired, and anxious we are, how broken we are. And for some of us, that we're just kind of like numb and moving through life, right? So all of this plays into our ability to get help, not to mention for women of color, this concept of strength manifests as like the superwoman syndrome, which I think a lot of us are familiar with, but like, even Superman had his kryptonite, all right? So even for us as women, there's things that don't work, and there's things that shut us down. There's things that draw from us, that disappoint us, that hurt us, right? That breaks us, right? I work with a lot of Black women who face more stress because of their work, because of finances and family responsibilities, racism, discrimination, and trauma, right? And more so than their counterparts. And on top of that, still this pressure to succeed and do well and not let their community or their family down. And that's a lot. And where do we put that a lot? Most times we keep it to ourselves, back into that place of hiding. When you hold stress in your body, man, your body will tell on you, right? That's where we experience things like hypertension. This is where we experience things like headaches, like stomach aches, difficulty sleeping, high blood pressure. Like it really wreaks havoc on our bodies because we're holding it there, right? And then sometimes it becomes outward expressions of things like anger and frustration, right? Irritability. So it becomes self-destructive to us the more we hold on to this idea that we're okay when we're really not. Our persistence, our holding on and protecting and hiding, it's really coming at a cost to our community, right? And it means that we're not dealing really with how we feel. We're pretending, right? We're pretending to be okay. And it's putting us in that place of we're taking too long to get help. Make sense? So I think like this is where we have to keep conversations going like this and really talk about how we feel, where we have to really address things like, girl, if you ain't sleeping right, and if you are like numbing out, wilding out, or you are even like overworking and overthinking, some of that might be a reflection that you need help, right? And that you're taking too long to do it. Okay. The question again, I love to ask is it working for you? And if it isn't, and it's disrupting any of those areas we talked about, like school, relationships, work relationships, if it's really stopping you from living the life that you want, how you feel, how you're showing up, how you feel physically, how you feel emotionally, then it isn't working. Right? And then therapy might be for you. Okay? And the truth is, you're not the only one. And the truth is, people are coming to therapy. you better hurry up and come and get this because you're missing out on your healing. All right. So I hope this is helpful so far, because I want you to just understand, I think that mental health is just this spectrum of how we feel and show up in life. Definitely for communities of color, it shows up differently because of our culture, our beliefs, our experiences with things like being vulnerable and the idea of having to work to get to what we need. But at the same time, like, we've got generations that are like dismantling this, and they're coming to therapy anyway, whether or not you give them permission. We have older adults that are like trying to undo some of the hurt of survival, right? And what that means. And they're coming to therapy. So the question really is like, why aren't you coming to therapy, right? Sometimes I know you don't come because there's still some myths around therapy, and we could talk about that too. First, therapy is not exclusive for people with severe mental illness. It can benefit anyone seeking support, anyone who wants to understand their experiences, anyone who wants to learn how to grow, how to communicate better, how to tolerate emotions like anger so we don't just like erupt, how to deal with sadness so we don't like fall apart. It's a place to learn how to process emotions, your thoughts, how to deal with people, how to get yourself together so it doesn't disrupt you. Again, you could show up as your best self. Yes. And we know that it works well because a lot of people hang out because really they just need a good friend. And that's not what therapy is for, but I get it. It's because it's the one space where you don't really feel judged, you feel safe, you can feel connected, someone is listening to you. And think about how many of us just want to be seen and just want to feel heard. And I think that's why this works in this space. And it also says to me that we've got to do more teaching and help people learn how to listen to each other, how to slow down, how to take the judgment out of spaces and be more present for people too. Okay. So that is a myth that is debunked, that it's only for folks dealing with mental illness. It's for everybody. I mentioned this earlier. I used to think it was just like a white people thing. That's not it either. It's for everybody, right? Second reason that people think therapy is not a good idea is because it seems like a sign of weakness or failure. But honestly, it's the opposite. It takes a lot of strength to pick up the phone and call and say that I need help, and to not just call once, but to keep calling, because the reality is it's hard to find a therapist. So it takes a lot of calling. It takes a lot of leaving messages. It's not that many of us as clinicians of color in particular, or something like 4% of the population. So that means that there's less of us and there's more of you. So it's going to take a while to get to somebody. So it takes strength to endure that part of it too. It takes courage to acknowledge that something isn't working and that I need help. So it's more powerful to be in that position of asking for help and receiving it than to not be. It takes too much energy to pretend, honestly, right? It also takes strength to like work through things and to work on things. Like, therapy is work. You don't have to do it all at once. And we're also trained to help you with that process, right? Sometimes people give therapy this bad name, like, you leave feeling really bad and like it sucks because it hurts so much and blah, 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 blah. But honestly, like, we do give you, at least a good therapist will give you the skills to help you navigate those emotions. We work really hard to keep you in a window of tolerance where you can really manage what you're experiencing, where we expand your ability to safely manage emotions as well. And it's really a guided process, right? Like, we're really not like ripping off the Band-Aid, or we shouldn't be. We're really taking our time to help you as well. So some days you may walk when you don't feel your greatest, but even within that, it's different than when you felt bad before, because you know that things are starting to make sense and things are moving in a different way instead of how it was before, where like you just felt bad and down and out and can handle that. It's a different experience with those feelings, right? And that progression is really powerful. So don't feel like you may not be ready for it. Don't feel like you can't handle it. We can help you with that part and navigate for you. And maybe you need to do it in like chunks in your life. Maybe there's different styles of therapy that you need to help you, but all of those things we can work on together. The last thing I'll touch on in this conversation in Black here on mental health and therapy is culture. For sure, culture plays a role in shaping our mental health experiences, especially when it comes to our healing in good ways and bad ways. It can be what prevents us from attaining our healing because we believe that, you know, we can't go sit with a therapist, or in some cases we can only like pray it away. I think faith and therapy exist together. I think that we have to learn to merge the two. I think in the same way that I'll say faith can bring people to you to support you, therapy can operate in the same way, where this is someone coming to help you in your journey to show up better, right? In terms of culture and healing, therapy has evolved. We embrace so much of you in the experience. There's so many people working hard to decolonize therapy and really focus on you and take away like the oppressive parts of it and really centering it on you, the person, and really healing disadvantaged communities, right? So we do things from the lens of, I'm gonna just say culture and color, right? Like where I started in the beginning of like, it was so bland and dry was even my interpretation of it. It's not that anymore. So many of my therapist friends are doing amazing things. You know, we've got like hip hop EMDR, trap yoga, embracing movement, we embrace prayer, we're training barbers to do therapy. Like you can heal right where you are if you are willing. And I hope more of you will be willing after this conversation. I hope more of you will share this conversation so people could really understand how we've grown and evolved in this space. Because I think that's important too. And if you have questions, like come back, ask, like we're all willing to support you and give you your answers, right? Let's see. So the last thing I'll say is we've also involved in the sense of we get that our community has different needs. So it's not just like one therapist for everything. Like we specialize in everything, right? From infertility to men and their mental health to finances. Like you're really missing out if you're not on the therapy line. That's the place to be. You need to be drawing water from that well, honey, and allow us to help you get the skills that you need to keep going in life, right? But not everybody might need a therapist, which is cool too. But if you do want to find a culturally competent therapist, there's certainly ways to do that. You could search sites like Therapy for Black Girls, Clinicians of Color, Therapy for Black Men. There's also like Latinx therapy. So I will drop, I think, a lot of these throughout the week so that you can find it. You can always ask the question in the chat and I'll come back and share that with you too. In terms of what to look for in a therapist, we covered that in a conversation with some of my therapist friends before. So I'll drop a link to that as well in this chat area here too. So, you know, really, I hope you have expanded your understanding a little bit of what to expect with therapy and maybe even challenge yourself a little bit in terms of like what's working for me and what's not, and where am I hiding when I really need to get more help, and what am I waiting for, right? So wherever this lands, let me know. I'm going to wrap it up here. Let me know if this was helpful, and hopefully I'll see you next Thursday for our next conversation in Black, exploring topics essential to Black and Brown mental health, looking at things like infertility, men and mental health. Today was just an overview about therapy itself and how it's evolved, especially for our community, how we integrate aspects of ourselves, some of the myths around therapy, and hopefully at least something hit home for you today. All right. It's been a pleasure. My name is Amanda Flood over here at Therapy is Dope, and we're glad to be part of your learning, growing, and healing experience.